Welcome to our noon edition of Arirang News. It's Tuesday, October 1st, Armed Forces Day here in South Korea. I'm Song Yujin, coming to you live from our studio in Seoul. We begin with the celebrations of South Korea's Armed Forces Day. The country will continue to build military strength to preserve peace and ensure the end of the North Korean regime if it uses nuclear weapons. That's according to President Yoon as he spoke Tuesday to mark Armed Forces Day. The occasion took on a greater significance with the launch of the country's strategic command as Yoon handed over the flag representing the new unit to its first commander, Air Force Lieutenant General Jin Young-seung.
더욱 단단해진 한미 동맹을 토대로 끊임없이 노력한 결과 마침내 우리 군의 첨단 재래식 능력과 미국의 확장 억제 능력을 통합하는 전략사령부를 창설하게 됐습니다.
Yoon said the unit will play a key role in protecting South Korea from North Korea's nuclear threat, stressing that Seoul cannot rely on the goodwill of the enemy and how history has shown building strength is the only way to safeguard peace. He said the day North Korea uses nuclear weapons will mark the end of the regime and vowed to strengthen trilateral security cooperation with the United States and Japan. Following his address, the military staged a celebratory parade featuring an F-15K sortie, tactical maneuvers by air forces, a taekwondo demonstration by the special forces, and for the first time, unveiled South Korea's Hyunmoo-5 ballistic missile. Reportedly the world's most powerful non-nuclear ballistic missile, the Hyunmoo-5 has been developed to effectively target fortified facilities such as underground command centers and nuclear missile bases. And the new strategic command that President Yoon mentioned was officially launched today, aimed at countering North Korea's nuclear and weapons of mass destruction threats. The command is under the Joint Chiefs of Staff and is located at the Namtaeryong Capital Defense Command in the southern region of Seoul. The strategic command will exercise integrated command over South Korea's key military assets, including the Hyunmoo series of ballistic missiles, stealth fighter jets, and 3,000-ton submarines, with the mission of deterring North Korea's nuclear and weapons of mass destruction threats. Now shifting our focus to the Middle East, it appears that Israel has launched its widely expected ground offensive in Lebanon after weeks of escalating tensions in the region. The Israeli military says it has begun a, quote, a limited ground operation early Tuesday targeting Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. Yoon has the details.
Loud explosions were reported across Beirut, Lebanon's capital, early Tuesday, as the Israeli military announced the start of targeted ground raids. In a statement released on Tuesday, the military indicated that the Israel Defense Forces had begun limited, localized, and targeted ground raids against Hezbollah positions in the southern Lebanon border area. According to Israel, the operation dubbed Northern Arrows is focused on targets in villages near the border that pose an immediate threat to northern Israel. The Lebanese militant group on Monday vowed to continue its fight against Israel, pledging support for the Palestinians and asserting that its forces are prepared for a ground engagement if Israeli troops enter by land. This statement comes in the wake of Israel's recent airstrike in Beirut that killed Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah and other senior figures. Amid the escalating tensions between Israel and Hezbollah, Israel's attack on Lebanon have killed over 1,000 people in the past 2 weeks. According to the Lebanese Prime Minister, these attacks have also displaced more than 1 million people in Lebanon. Israeli officials have stated that the ground assault will not lead to a long-term occupation. However, it remains unclear how deep the operations will go or how long they are expected to last. Yoon, Arirang News.
On the diplomatic front, South Korea and Slovakia upgraded their bilateral ties to a new level yesterday after first forging diplomatic ties in 1993. President Yoon and Slovak Prime Minister, during their summit on Monday, agreed to cooperate on a wide range of areas, including nuclear power. Our presidential office correspondent Kim Do-yeon reports.
South Korea and the Slovak Republic have elevated their bilateral ties to a strategic partnership. This as President Yoon hosted Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico on Monday at Yongsan Presidential Office as the two nations celebrate 30 years since the establishment of diplomatic ties.
이는 양국 협력 역사에 있어 새로운 이정표이자 미래 협력을 향한 중요한 토대가 될 것입니다. 양국은 전략적 동반자로서 새로운 30년을 함께 만들어 나갈 것입니다.
Adopting a joint statement, both countries agreed to cooperate in several different areas, including security, science and technology, and the economy. But nuclear power cooperation was one of the highlights for both leaders.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, that you positively reacted on the topic of cooperation in the field of nuclear energy. And I hope that we will continue this discussion and we will go into more details.
This summit comes just over a week after President Yoon Suk-yeol visited Slovakia's close partner nation, the Czech Republic, where South Korean and Czech companies are finalizing a deal for the construction of 2 nuclear power reactors in Dukovany. During Yoon's trip, Czech President Petr Pavel mentioned that bilateral cooperation could lead to more projects, specifically mentioning Slovakia. With that in mind, the Slovak Prime Minister's mention of nuclear power cooperation was notable, and in fact, the two leaders signed an MOU on comprehensive energy cooperation. The MOU confirms the shared commitment by the two nations to accelerate the transition of energy systems in response to climate change, which includes nuclear power among other clean energy sources. Meanwhile, the two leaders also signed another MOU on the Trade and Investment Promotion Framework. In terms of security, the two leaders also expressed strong concerns over North Korea's provocations and its military cooperation with Russia, agreeing to cooperate on denuclearization and human rights. Slovakia's Prime Minister affirmed support for South Korea's North Korea policy and the President's August 15th unification doctrine. Also, the two leaders exchanged views on the situation in Ukraine and agreed to continue cooperating on humanitarian aid and reconstruction efforts for Ukraine. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Back here in the country, South Korea's exports remained strong in September, rising 7.5% from a year ago, marking 12 consecutive months of year-on-year growth. According to the Trade Ministry on Tuesday, exports hit $58.7 billion last month. Average daily exports adjusted for the number of working days reached a record high for any September at $2.9 billion. Breaking it down by sector, outbound shipments of 6 items were up, including semiconductors, wireless communication devices, and computers. Exports of semiconductors, the country's largest export item, set a new all-time high since records began, reaching $13.6 billion, a 37% surge from last year. And that's all we have at this hour. Thank you for watching, but be sure to stay tuned for our live broadcast of the Armed Forces Day Military Parade at 3:55 p.m. Korea time. And Arirang News will be back at 6 p.m. Korea time.